tickets. You gave one to a friend. The first thing I thought was, how much of the stage is left?
Well, we bought about 3,000 square feet that was left out of the original 8,000. We sold memorabilia over the summer.
Let me get you closer to the mic.
Get me closer to the mic.
Yeah, we want to make sure we hear the wisdom you dropped.
The wisdom. And we sold, a great amount of, the stage, but there's still some left. As a matter of fact, one of my partner's sons, Matt Marks, and my son, my two sons, are now planning marketing effort for the 100th anniversary of Woodstock.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
So you're looking 50 years into the future.
Well,
they are,
is.
not me.
I feel like the concert, they got a little late start on that. So let's start planning for the 100th and get it right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully now with another 50 years, they'll be able to get it right.
Well, you're wearing one of the pieces, and again, we described them if you haven't seen them. It's an amulet in a peace sign shape, and the wood is in the middle. We were just, before we even get on that, we were talking earlier, we were trying to figure out who the new quote-unquote hippies are. Are there hippies? I mean, there's still hippies around, or at least with the spirit, right?
Well, there, as you would say, there's modern-day hippies. I was listening to your conversation, what happened at the Radio City Music Hall with the guy, going in front of you. And, it's so different than...
Not me, him. I would have clocked the guy.
Right.
So I can't be a modern-day hippie.
But where's the peace and love?
Well, that's it. Woodstock, it was all peace and love. No one was breaking ahead of the line. The only thing everyone was doing is sharing their joint, from person to person. But there was no, don't you know who I am attitude. And then, as you said, not the woman in front of you stood up and, took out her phone. There were no cell phones at Woodstock. There was no Instagram. There was no Twitter. People just, a million eyeballs just focused on that stage. There was nothing else, and that's where the beauty is, and that's where the magic took place at Woodstock. And, when people say, can Woodstock happen again? Not the same way, because now you have social media.
And the
coronavirus. And that would be the focal point of a big festival.
The crazy thing about that is, we talked about it before, about how they ran out of food, and the town pitched in to feed folks. But even under those circumstances, it doesn't seem like people got really overly aggro. Like, it could have turned into Lord of the Flies, but it didn't.
Well, there's a lot of reasons. One is that the producers, John Roberts, Joel Rosenman, when they knew they would there was free concert and the fences came down, they could have had the attitude and say, screw it, let's go home, whatever happens, happens. But that's not what they were about. They felt they made a commitment, and they're going to make sure everyone gets paid and make sure the show goes on. So they're the real heroes. There's a lot of heroes in Woodstock, but the idea that the promoters didn't just pack up their bags and let everyone fend for themselves gave you the spirit of what the spirit of Woodstock was all about. And also, it was held in Sullivan County, which was a resort community. So they were used to big influxes of people. You had the Concord Hotel Grossingers. Between Concord and Grossingers, they served 10,000 people each meal.
Wow.
So the Concord, if I'm not mistaken, boiled 55,000 eggs to ship up to Bethel. So you had all the hotels pitching in. You had all the bungalow colonies pitching in. My parents owned the bungalow colony. My mother went on the speaker with her Jewish accent and said, there's hippies that need food. Everybody please make sandwiches. And, everybody made sandwiches. They were concerned, should we put cheese on it? Because, mostly Jews. But... and it was just not my parents' bungalow. There were thousands of bungalow colonies at that point, and they would have trucks or buses stopping at each bungalow colony, drive those to the airport, and have the helicopters flying in. So it was the first time, I think, where you had a communal, let's make sure this works and everybody's happy. And, yes, they may be hippies, and, at that point people didn't like hippies, but everyone looked at everybody as a human being. They didn't look at them as oh, this is a hippie, this is a white person, this is a black person. As Max Yasgur said, the world saw 500,000 people get together and have nothing but peace and music. And that's what it was all about.
But just the logistics of that, I mean, you know, the hotels you just mentioned, they couldn't have been equipped or even, of course, prepared to, like, all right, cook up 50,000 eggs, boil them. I mean, think about that.
Well, if you would see the size of these kitchens, they were prepared.
Wow.
And, you know, the Concord worked overtime. Now, once the kitchen closed, you know, for dinner, and Grossingers and Laurels and Kutchers, they just went, all the cooks stayed and just kept cooking and cooking and cooking, you know, for the festival goers. So you had that infrastructure, which was, you know, who knew we would need to use that infrastructure, but it helped create the success and the non-violent attitude that, you know, could have happened.
Wow, it must be so weird to be someone from that Woodstock generation, to have lived through that, and to be here today, to look around at how it's the me generation instead of the we generation. To hear your stories. I mean, it's funny. Millennials love watching Friends now because it's a time before cell phones. But I'm from a time before cell phones, and I'm listening to you talk, and I'm thinking, if there were a crisis today, and there is a crisis today, why aren't we responding in the selfless way that we did during Woodstock?
I think we look at things differently. Now everybody looks at everything, how many likes can I get for posting something. During Woodstock, you know, again, there was no social media. It was really how many people can I pass my joint around to make me happy. It was a whole.
They shared food. I mean, we have stories from people who said, "Look, we were stupid. We showed up to Woodstock and we didn't bring food for 3 days, and the people in the blanket next to us shared theirs."
But you know what? Because
I don't know if that would happen today.
Well, because of social media, to the point you were just making, what people might be posting is like, "Look at this fucking! All I got is a fucking hard-boiled egg."
Right.
You know? I mean,
yes.
Right. And they're saying,
all I got is the cheese sandwich.
And what's taking so long, you know, to get this? And there's not enough outlets for me to charge my cell phone. How dare they? You know, it's a whole different attitude. But, you know, again, Woodstock was a viral moment in time. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. And, you know,
but it brought out the best in us.
It brought out.
That's what's so impressive to me, right? So it brought out the best in us. Like, thinking of what Nick just said, it's like, this bread isn't gluten free. Like, I think we're so spoiled now. We're so spoiled now that it's really about us as individuals, whereas Woodstock Nation was about us as a generation, as a plural.
Well, you know, you look at Woodstock before social media. You know, the underground radio stations, the underground newspapers, the head shops. So can you imagine if Woodstock was held today, you know, with the same vibe, there would be hundreds of millions of people coming there because of the social media. But it was also a time, it was a way for a generation to protest the war in Vietnam, to protest the president, you know, Richard Nixon, that was in power at the time. It was a protest. This was the first time that 500,000 people came together to protest and to show the world, you know, we're here, and you need to, you know, listen to us and take our suggestions to make this world a better place. And I believe that happened right after Woodstock.
I love that. This bread has gluten. Drink from a hose. There's no electrolytes in this water.
And you know, where's my vegan food? And, you know, it's...
I would ask that, though.
Well, right, but
and
no.
there were lots of vegans during
well, they
were the original vegans.
Right. The hog farm was the original, you know, vegan. It was all, you know, kale and you know, oats, and it really was. But, you know, we just came back from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We were there on Tuesday, where we presented a piece of the stage to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. To me, was
this is so cool.
It was, you know, being.
It's amazing that they didn't have it before.
Yeah, tell us how this all came about. We have SiriusXM. We have a partnership with the Rock Hall. We're going there to be a part of the induction ceremony.
And they better have gluten-free bread.
So we'll get to see.
I think they did. I was in their shop. They do have gluten-free bread.
We will we get to see the setup when we go, or is this for a future?
Well, no, it's there
exhibit?
right now. They made it now part of their Woodstock 50 exhibit.
Wait, how big a piece did you bring?
It's a 3-foot by 3-foot piece.
Okay.
It's a nice size, and they moved a lot of the other, memorabilia they had to make room for this. And it comes down I think in April. I'm not sure, but they're going to try to get that stage piece in somewhere else along the museum.
Yeah, this exhibit is probably going to make way for, I'm sure, a lot of the new Rock Hall class. But from what I understand, your piece of stage, the original Woodstock stage, is going to be on permanent display at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
At the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And to be somebody that wasn't, growing up as I loved rock and roll, being, producing concerts, the dream is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but, I don't play an instrument. I'm not, Erzing out Azoff or Bill Graham that ever, to be part of it.
Well, you were a mini Bill Graham. I mean, when you were younger, when you were 14, you took part of your bat mitzvah money to produce your first rock concert.
My first concert was the Vanilla Fudge and the Blues Project.
That's insane. I mean, first of all, that's another one of those bands.
When you were 14.
That's another one of those bands that's kind of been lost in the sands of time, but that was a big band.
Most people's first show they put on at 14 is their friend's band that they're playing at their mother's garage.
Yeah. But and if you look again, going back, there were two shows. The early show was $2.50, and the late show was $3.50.
Okay, but all right. So at 14, I mean, jokes aside, at 14, take the monetary element out of it. How does a 14-year-old who literally is a child convince a legit rock band, Vanilla Fudge, hey, I want to do a show. Will you play?
Well,
how does that happen?
I was part of a group of two other people. So they were older than me.
Yeah, but how much older?
They were 18.
But still, though.
But then again,
it's a bunch of dumb kids.
Before Woodstock, you can call up any agent and saying, I want to book a band, and they'll say, okay, it's $2,000, and send me a check for $40, and we'll put a deposit on. So it wasn't unusual for anyone to produce a concert. Once Woodstock happened, it turned into big business.
Wait, how much did you get for your bar mitzvah?
Well, in gifts, my parents, they gave me $2,000.
All right.
Wow,
but
that's a lot of money in the 60s.
That's a lot of money, and especially for Jewish parents.
And that's a
giving
good
their
deal.
kid
That's a good investment.
Not saving it for college.
And were they outraged that you took some of that money to start a concert?
They knew I loved music. They owned the bungalow colony, so my father was the MC, and I used to MC, with my father at 13 and 14.
So like Dirty Dancing?
Like what you saw in Dirty Dancing. And, I was shocked that they let me do it.
I was going to say, it wasn't like, you took that money, I no longer have a son.
Some of the people I brought home, they said the same thing. We had Mountain play one of the shows. And, in those days, now you have to supply, a 92-course dinner for the stars.
Yes.
In those days, you'd have to supply them a dinner. So to save money, my mother would make dinners. So I brought Leslie West.
Leslie West ate your mother's food.
Right, and the first thing she says to him, "What's a nice Jewish boy like you mit the hair? What's mit that hair?" So it was so innocent. It was phenomenal, and you don't see that today anymore. It's a strict business, and I guess you have to, but. Going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and looking at, every artist I was in love with, whether it was Eric Clapton, The Who.
Was it your first time there?
First time there.
It's really special, isn't it?
It was it's special even if I had nothing to do with it, but just to have the president, Greg, the CEO of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, introduce me the same way he would introduce an inductee, that was pretty cool.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
You're on the same level as Bon Jovi
guy.
now.
Maybe a little bit lower. But, for my kids, my younger son, Austin's very into music. They're amazed that I'm part of this.
Yes.
That is amazing.
Well, that's because you rescued this stage. I mean, this is a big part of the story. I want to know, how did you reach out to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Did they hear about you? I mean, we're getting tweets from people who said that they bought the piece of stage last time after seeing you on the show last time.
Yeah, Dallas Elevates one is cool because it's instead of like the silver, it's like got a black, almost like looks like a black mat surrounding. It's cool.
Right. Yeah, it's when we found the stage, we wanted people to feel the magic that happened there. So, in the pendants and everything we offer, you're able to touch the stage. Usually when you offer memorabilia, they don't want you to touch anything. We felt that people need to feel that magic. So everything you get is touchable. And what we found over the past holidays, Christmas and Hanukkah, is that the millennials bought these Woodstock items for their parents and their grandparents and some of their great-great-parents. And the feedback we got, it was the emotion that their parents or whoever the person gave it to, the emotion because of how important, even if they didn't attend, how important Woodstock was for them growing up and what it meant to be part of that generation. We're proud of what we did, and I believe that the Generation Z or the millennials, I do believe they have some of the same feelings that we had towards the environment, towards pollution, towards racial tensions, and it's nice to see that coming back. But you still have to, you have to sometimes get rid of the, as Matt will tell you, the do you know who I am attitude that, we're all privileged. And, as Matt was talking about the guy going in front of him, I got mad at the car to the left of me because he snuck ahead and pulled, I'm in a long line of traffic to make a left turn, and he's one of those guys, what, I'll just sneak in. And, but, you do that. And
that's funny because I compared Matt's concert rage to road rage earlier. It's so similar. It gets up your back, but it's because someone thinks they're better than someone else. So they can try and get in that line or sneak in on the highway or whatever, but that's not the Woodstock.
Right.
I guess your generation also gave us Trump, and he is all about himself. I'm sorry, the poor guy is now freaking out, but yeah, well, no, because it is. It's the yin and yang, right? And that's what Pete Buttigieg talked about, like the idea that we're all Darth Vader and we're all, like Luke's dad at the same time. It's like there is this yin and yang, and I love that that's when you come here, and this is your second visit, you really do bring a special vibe.
Well, thank
you. That's why when I gave piece of stage to my next door neighbor, the amulet, you used the word magic. I do feel like it has magic. There are very few things these days that truly have meaning. Right? Like when if your house was robbed, right? There are very few things you can't replace in it anymore. You may be inconvenienced by your phone or your TV being taken, but it's like, okay, it's backed up in the cloud.
It's easily
just get
replaceable
it,
at the end of the day.
But there are things like this, and people like you that I think are just truly irreplaceable.
See, that leads to my next question, because you talk about when you recovered the stage, and this is the thing. Like Lori and I talk about this all the time, whether it's a huge corporate record label that just stores masters of classics in like the most irresponsible way, or even artists who've like, I don't know where the master to my greatest song I ever wrote was. The fact that you were able to recover the floor, and to the point you were just making about, it having significance to Gen Z, I've still, for those who missed your first appearance here, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that you guys uncovered the floor, the stage, you authenticated it. It had been sitting there for God knows how many years, and nobody stopped to think of the historical, the cultural significance of this. That just blows my mind, because Woodstock itself was such a happening. It literally changed the world. And I mean, growing up in the 70s and 80s, for a while we were like, I don't want to hear about that hippie nonsense anymore, because you're trying to get away from anything that was your parents' generation.
Yeah.
Now in retrospect, you realize the weighty heft, the significance of it. But the people there who discarded the stage didn't.
Well, they discarded everything. A couple of days after Woodstock, to the people in Sullivan County, it was the worst disaster that had ever happened. So no one was looking to save what a lot of the locals felt was a disaster. And again, when Alex Gray bought the stage from Bethel, he wasn't thinking, oh, my God, I got this historical thing that, 50 years or 75 years down the road that's going to be history. He built a paddleball court. He bought the wood because it was cheap. They were selling everything, or else he was going to go to the lumber yard. But the idea also that I happened, you talk about the magic, being at the right place at the right time, that if he never told me that this is the stage wood, who would know? No one would know.
It would just be recycled, and it'd be a paddleball court.
And you're just going to make a birdhouse out of it.
Right. But so just by luck, by him telling me that, history was saved. If he didn't tell me that, no one would know what that is. It's a paddleball court.
Sometimes I get accused of being touchy-feely, but I truly believe, like, the universe works like tumblers in a lock. Like, you're absolutely right. Had he not told you that, you wouldn't be here with us. That whole era, that piece of stage, which, no pun intended, which symbolized something more than just a quote-unquote rock concert, would be lost forever.
Right, and that's the cool part of it. And if people want to, there's a whole backstory to it. If they go to our website, Piece of Stage, which is PEACE.com, they'll see a little history. And what we've done, because of the honor of being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and in honor of the 2020 inductees, if anyone wants to purchase any item, we're giving a 20% discount if they put Rock Hall at checkout. So, but again, being at Rock Hall and the hospitality that everybody at the Rock Hall gave us, and even the people that were visiting, there's magic. People came up to me and said, wow, it's magic.
I don't feel like one person there that we've encountered, like whether, the first time I went there, I want to say it was like end of the 90s, mid-90s. I don't think I've ever encountered one person there who was working there who it felt like it was a job. It just seems like a labor of love to those people. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, we spoke to people there who has been volunteering since the day the museum is open. And they said it's the greatest thing in their life. They don't care that they're not getting paid. The idea that they're able to see how people's reaction is to everything, about history, it's great. Especially in today's world, you need something to make you happy.
This guy's great.
The first time
Steve Gold.
I hope my wife is listening so you can hear that.
Come on, it's true. It's true.
The first time I went there was like right after my mom had passed away, and I went there with my girlfriend at the time. And we were walking in, and this random black lady, this older black lady who worked there, just ran over to me. She's like, "Come on, give me love," and she just gave me a big hug. And my girlfriend Erin goes, "Your mom sent her. You know that, right?" I mean, that was my first experience at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was crazy.
Oh, so, it's that vibe.
I want to know how. Oh, that's right. I just texted you back, so it's like, we have to take a break because when we come back, I really want to hear the story of how the Rock Hall came to know about Piece of Stage and how you got the stage in there, because that's a major.
Feedback. The show continues online at SiriusXM Volume. Be a part of the Volume community.
All right, Steve Gold is with us. Nick Carter, Lori Majewski. Piece of stage is his outfit, and it is actually little wooden pieces of the original Woodstock stage from 50 years ago, and they're fashioned into these amazing necklaces in the shape of a peace sign, and we will hook you up, because that's just the way it is, man.
Yeah, man.
It's the hippie way, man. First three to get through, 844-686-5863. We'll hook you up with one of these handsome necklaces, an amazing conversation piece, and each comes with a certificate of authenticity. So dial carefully and good luck. So before we left, Lori was asking Steve how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, how that marriage came together, because you got a nice big piece of the stage into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, when we first heard the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was going to do a Woodstock 50 exhibit, we all three of, myself and the partners looked at us and saying, let's not even try to get that piece of stage, because we're just three little, peons that found the stage. What happened, we brought on a publicist who, in this world, it's who you know.
Could have called us.
I was going to say, so you hired a publicist. You hired a publicist to call the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
No, we hired a publicist to help us, get word out on, that we were offering the stage, and this guy, knows everybody. So when I said, he asked us what our dreams are. I said one of our dreams is to get this piece of stage into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So he asked me, did you try? I said no. Who would take my phone call? So he says, let me see what I can do. He reached out to them, and they said, oh my God, we didn't even know that the stage existed. Wow. And it took 3 months to get it in. That's why it's only there till April.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, he's got a point. If you called up and said, hey, I actually own the original Woodstock stage, they might have thought you were a crank.
Or I have a bridge to sell you.
Exactly.
Or they would think I'm still on the brown acid that I never should have taken. But
wow, so that for them, this was an incredible find. I mean, I don't know if you realize this, Steve, but they probably have to bid on and purchase a number of things that they display, and this, just like the Woodstock spirit of Woodstock, comes to them, gratis.
I got the original stage, and I know who killed Paul, man. Click.
And I know where Jimmy Hoffa's buried.
But do you have enough left that you can still do piece of stage?
Yeah, we do have enough left. We're excited about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and the Grammy Museum this summer took a little piece also, so it's there too.
Wait, you said you had initially about 800 square feet? How many?
We had 3,000.
3,000 square feet. Okay, so the piece you gave the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was 3 by 3. You said, right?
Okay, 3 feet by 3 feet.
Yeah, they got enough left over.
Yeah, we have enough that again, like I said before, my partner's son Matt and my two kids, they're planning for the 75th and 100th. And
now, how does that work? Do you have to keep it in like a hyperbaric chamber, pressure?
Not hyperbaric, but we have it in a temperature-controlled storage that's specifically made for high-value, museum-type items to make sure that the humidity is right and so forth.
So when you were at the Rock Hall this past week, the event was free. People could come and see the stage. What was some of the reaction from people that you got? Were people really what the heck? I mean, this is an amazing piece of history.
The people that came, they love music and the aura of Woodstock. I would say they're Woodstock groupies. And not just for the concert, but the whole feel, the vibe of what Woodstock was. As a matter of fact, somebody from my hometown in Rockland County flew out because he wanted to be part of that history, because Woodstock meant so much. And I say, you don't need to, because it's expensive. He says, no, I got to be there. And there was a lot of people came with their Woodstock T-shirts. The tie-dye. The tie-dye, there were some real hippies there, with the long, now they have long gray hair. There's, when you say the word Woodstock to anybody, a smile automatically goes on their face. There is no one can say anything negative about that word. You may be able to say Coachella, I didn't like it.
Overpriced.
Overpriced. But Woodstock puts a smile on everybody's face. And today what's going on, we need smiles on people's face because...
I mean, it's the closest to an American utopia we really have ever gotten.
Yes, it is. And again, it happened because it wasn't supposed to happen. If Woodstock was...
If they planned it.
If they planned the fences before the stage, people, it wouldn't have been the free concert and the way it is.
That's the crazy thing. All three of them have gone down the same route. They've sold tickets, but then, the fences have come down and it's like the concert's free.
Right.
But, a different vibe for the other two, of course.
Right. One was done for the MTV world, and, it was prepackaged. It's my wife's in media, and, they always tell her, oh, can you create a commercial for us that's going to go viral? And she says, you got to look up the dictionary what the word viral means. You can't create a viral commercial. I'm sure, you guys, are in the advertising. The advertiser says, can you make this commercial viral for me? Yeah. It doesn't work that way.
The first thing I thought after 94 was, aren't they ill-served by even calling anything, even if it's in the same area, calling it Woodstock? Because they can't. It just rings hollow. They're not going to be able to replicate the vibe.
And they didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't.
Either time.
Right. And they tried to do, Woodstock 50, but, with all the regulations and it became big business, it's hard to pull off. It's, different. Look at today's environment. 50 years ago when people went to Woodstock, they weren't worried about where the exits were. They weren't worried about some guy standing on a tower and shooting them.
Oh, my God, Steve,
there was no metal detectors. Woodstock 50, there would be metal detectors everywhere. And whoever's, the chipmunk of Woodstock 50.
And drug-sniffing dogs.
Right, drug sniff. And the master ceremonies will tell everybody before we show, look around, you see where the exits are. It's really weird where we've gone in 50 years. To the innocence of what rock and roll was, whether it was from the Fillmore East, the Fillmore West, where you can literally close your eyes and see that performance. You can hear that music. Now everything is a production. It's weird. It's
probably the biggest concern was like having a bad trip.
That was it.
Really.
That was it.
All right. Obviously, Piece of Stage. Give us the website really quickly.
Pieceofstage.com.
PEACE. All right. Listen, Steve, you are a treasure. Thanks so much. We love having you. We love seeing you. Man, we ended on a feel-good note.
Get out to the Rock Hall, too, and check out the Woodstock exhibit and check out the stage.
All right, listen. Lori's on a boat next week. Stay safe, you. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Neil deGrasse Tyson on Monday. Have yourselves a good weekend. Peace out, bitches.
Bye.